country boy. And so when we retired, we moved back home.
Now, I went to Marion Military Institute, which was not too far from you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had a baseball scholarship to Marion when I was, coming out of high school. So I went out there.
It definitely shaped me for the academy, but it wouldn't have been my first that I, had the opportunity to go somewhere else. It would have been that, or it was either that or Georgia. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and continue your conversation. Still bringing stuff up.
Cool.
No, we're just talking about you.
Yeah. Well, everybody's always talking about me, so I should figure out a way to tap into that. Go live. Yeah, we're live on YouTube now. And let's see about.
Mike, we there was one time, it was after I left. We were carrying Michelle Obama, and President Obama wanted to kiss her goodbye or something, and he ran up the stairs. You know how he does his little swagger up the stairs.
Yeah.
Got on the airplane, and everyone swears up and down. For a brief second, we were Air Force One. I said, "Well,
gotta push the throttles up."
That's right. Got to turn something on,
Yeah. Yeah, that was I had a really good time flying them. I didn't fly them too often, but when I did, it was pretty amazing. It's a great family. It was good seeing a whole family in there, young girls and a mom and a dad. And I think that's the biggest thing that I could appreciate the most about President Obama was he stayed a dad and a husband. Not to say that any of the other presidents didn't do that, but it was just neat to see behind the scenes and just see the human side of somebody who's on the news all the time, talking party line or giving a great speech or whatever it is. It was great to see, the human side of a politician and a person.
Very cool. Did you know Jackie Van Ovost?
I did, yeah. She's a wing commander.
Yeah, that's what so she and I flew we went to 141 school together.
Oh, that's cool. I flew that as well.
Yeah, you could tell there was something different about her. Even as second lieutenant.
She was sad. She was really, really good. That's why she was wing. They don't put, I should put it this way. They put really sharp, upward mobile people in that wing commander position.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The coolest thing was just watching her walk out with the presidents. I was just like,
yeah, yeah. It was, everybody. Well, they rotated that duty, and everybody was kind of like, man, hopefully I look good. Everyone was worried because the press is always on you. So,
All right, guys, I think we're ready to go. We're live on Facebook and live on YouTube and live on, there we go, and live on Zoom. So actually, I need to do one more thing with Zoom, and then we are truly live.
John, one thing I want to talk to you about offline, man, is how do they get you guys to land on those little circles on the White House lawn?
Yeah, I tell you, sometimes it's a challenge, and
sometimes.
I was actually watching that. I watched a documentary about that done by National Geographic. They kind of dramatized it, but it looked very challenging.
It's not real easy because you can't see them because your wheels are behind you. So you've got the co-pilot in the left seat, acting like a crew chief, calling you forward, calling you left or right, and then calling you down. And I remember after flying in some particularly bad weather, I was a little bit tired, and I missed the boards. And when we lowered the door, lowered the stairs for the president to walk off, he stepped off onto the board and looked back at me, kind of shrugged like this, like, hey, you missed the boards. So,
I wanted you to walk on the boards there because the ground was soft, right?
There you go. Oh, that's quick thinking.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, was I calling in on that one? Was I your co-pilot on that?
Was it even more difficult at night?
It is because sometimes you'll go on there and it's pitch black dark. Sometimes the lights are on, and either way, either pitch black dark or the lights on doesn't always do you good. A few of the lights on is better. So
Okay, well, we've been up live and people have been enjoying us doing a behind the scenes conversation that's no longer behind the scenes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a very special and very unique edition of All Things Aviation. Of course, I say that about every show, but I have been trying to round up this world-class group of guests for a while. So needless to say, very much looking forward to continuing our conversation that we've already been having. But I would be remiss not to make a couple of significant acknowledgments. I will start with a couple of heartfelt ones. First and foremost, my mother passed away suddenly about a week before Thanksgiving, which is why I've been off the grid for the last couple of weeks. She was 86 years old and lived a wonderful life. Also, as all of you have heard, Chuck Yeager passed away on Monday, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. He was best friends with R.A. Bob Hoover, and after a historic life of legendary aviation accomplishments, he died at 97 years old. I'd say he lived a very full life as well. And if I recall correctly, in his late 80s, he went flying again in a jet, a military jet. So that was pretty cool. On a much more uplifting note, Tuskegee Airman and Air Force retired Brigadier General Charles E. McGee turned 101 years old this past Monday, December 7th. Yes, he was born on what would later become Pearl Harbor Day. 101 years old. It's kind of hard to fathom. As most of you know, he completed 409 sorties over 3 wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So this past Sunday, on the eve of his 101st birthday, the East Coast chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen held a car parade in front of his Bethesda home. And I somehow managed to get authorization for Jim Beasley to fly his P-51D Mustang over McGee's home.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
as was pointed out to me, our government gave approval in the Guinness Book Record of Time. And the look on McGee's face as the P-51 passed overhead a total of 3 times was definitely worth all the effort it took. Now for some fun and insight and probably a few interesting stories. A few of you may, for those of you who tuned in early, probably heard them a little bit of them already. 4 gentlemen here who have continued to have amazing careers in aviation. We have Michael Sundsted, a retired Air Force One pilot. Michael was officially a presidential pilot with the Presidential Airlift Group. He's now captain of White Wing Company at Bradley International Airport, still doing VIP executive lifts in the civilian world. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And then we have Ken Faircloth. Ken is a retired Marine One commanding officer of the Marine One Helicopter Squadron One at Quantico. Ken is currently a director of standards for the Rotary Wing Flight Training Division of Amentum. And I hope I pronounced that correctly because I didn't even check with you before the show. Did I?
It is Amentum.
Okay, great. In other words, they train Army helicopter aviators. A pretty robust program. It's going to be really interesting to hear more about that. Next is my friend and colleague, Derek Green, better known as Deke. Deke is a retired commander of operations support for the 201st Airlift Squadron. He is now the vice president of the Jet Division for Performance Flight based at Westchester County Airport. And our 4th guest today is Chris Janecek. Chris Janecek. There you go. Chris Janecek, a retired Marine One, Marine Helicopter Squadron One instructor, check pilot, executive officer. And in the civilian world, he's a commercial helicopter pilot and does motorcycle sales, or as he says, he's a motorcycle sales Maverick HD for the Harley-Davidson Motor Company. Welcome everybody to the program.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.
Really glad to have you guys on here. What a wealth of experience and knowledge that all of you possess with everything that you have done. But I wanted to start out with kind of telling a little bit more about yourselves and what you did, starting with the VIP executive airlift, in other words, Air Force One and Marine One, and what that was like, how you got into it, how you even got into aviation. So why don't we start with Chris? And Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and that type of thing.
All right, Vince. I'm kind of a nomadic kid. My dad was Navy, lived both coasts, a couple random places in between. I have kind of a a broken history, I guess you could say, or broken path getting into the Marines and flying and stuff. Kind of goofed around a lot in college, some junior college stuff, running nightclubs.
You goofed around in college? None of us did that.
I wasn't a very focused student. I actually got dropped. Well, I was hurt for OCS, got dropped. I had to reapply a couple years later.
Wow.
Because I really wanted to fly helicopters in the Marines. You know, I saw a bunch of great TV shows as a kid, and stuff stuck in my head, and that's what I wanted to do, you know. And then I did kind of a standard kind of fleet rotation, a couple tours, you know, over in Iraq, flying wise, ground wise, and then I got a little tired of that. After 3 deployments, I was looking for a break, and I actually thought about getting out of the military, but then the market kind of fell apart in 2008, and I really wasn't ready to go back to the sandbox. And I said, hey, what's this Marine One stuff all about? I can apply for that. So that's what kind of set that in motion. Did that 4 years, and then just kind of kept moving through the fleet, kept flying as long as I could until they retired my helicopter. And then I was a staff guy at a couple levels. So that's sort of my thing. And it's odd you bring up Chuck Yeager. That whole path started because when I was about 10 years old, we went to the air station at Miramar and we watched The Right Stuff. And
oh wow,
yeah, that's
an inspiring movie. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, you know, you skim through everything, but I want to back up a little bit because it's fascinating to me that you had the little bumps in the road, but yet you still ended up in what's considered one of the most elite helicopter units in the world, Marine One. So was it that easy for you to get in, or that good of a helicopter pilot, or did you have to really like button down a bit?
I think what it is, it's just, you know, on a personal level, you know, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I mean, John can tell you that. Like, I get stuff done. I'm kind of lucky more than good a lot of times. I get it done. But I think at the end of the day, it's you have to have just good playground skills with other people. You got to share your toys, look out for other folks, because, you know, like we were talking before about Stacy Sheard, you know, she helped me a lot after I retired. So I keep doing that for other people. I have, you know, crew chiefs that got out, went to college, and they start hitting me up, and now they're flying air medical stuff, you know, tour stuff. And it's just, you just keep working as hard as you can. And the Marine Corps says plant or grow where you're planted. And that's just what I try to do.
So Chris, let me go right to it. If you were talking, and you are talking to, because we have everywhere from middle school all the way up to post-grad watching this program. So you're talking to a high school kid, and they're doing some of what you were doing. Their grades may not be great, or they may not be taking it too seriously about studying, and they don't even know what they want to quite do yet, but maybe they do like aviation. What kind of advice would you give them?
Study more, play less. I don't know. I was that kid. I was the kid, the ADD kid that was in the hallway, you know, didn't do a whole lot of great grades as a youngster. And then I just got interested in stuff, and it's like, well, I can get better grades. And I just start working through those things. But just whatever your interest is, just get involved in that and figure out what it's about, you know, learn everything you can about it. You know, as a youngster, go hang out at an airport and, you know, at an FBO, and just talk to old timers with airplanes. You know, I even, when I was 12, I worked at the museum, the aviation museum out on Long Island, just helping guys clean bird nests out of airplanes, and just keep that fire going.
Yeah. Ken, I'm guessing that Chris is a lot smarter than he's claiming with us, and and that he has done some really great things. And we were just talking earlier before the program started. Flying Marine One is no joke. I mean, it's serious business, and takes a lot of skill, and you got to really be on your P's and Q's with everything. And they use the term, and I'm probably not getting it 100% correct, but it was basically saying no room for error, or no error. You know, you just can't, you just don't have room for error when you're flying, you know, the president in those type of aircraft, in a helicopter or the Air Force One, which becomes Air Force One once the president's on. So can you help expand on that a little bit?
Sure. we would call it the no-fail mission, and it was certainly a
No
no-fail mission for Air Force One also. And one of Chris's jobs as a White House liaison officer, we called it WHELO, but as a White House liaison officer, Chris would go in advance of the team bringing the airplanes in. Chris would be out about a week early, and he would set everything up. So, and that would be, all the things that we're not going to talk about, and but including hotels and car reservations and parking ramps, and I mean, you name it. The White House liaison officers set all that stuff up for the team when we came in. But he was always on the road, and routinely he was there 3 or 4 days before we were. We rolled in. For example, let's say if I was on the trip, he and I would work together. We would prepare the brief, and then we would brief it and fly a very successful mission each and every time. Again, like I said, it was a no-fail mission.
Yeah. So how big was the team that he would be doing this pre-planning for?
We would typically send 5 airplanes on the road, 5 helicopters on the road. And so that's probably 75 or 80 Marines.
Wow.
All total that he's for Los Angeles or New York City or London, and he's going to set everything up, and we're going to walk in the door, and he's going to hand us hotel rooms and rental car keys.
Sure.
And then ramps and hangar space and food, everything is already arranged. So they're a class act.
Ken, how did you get into aviation and end up being a Marine pilot, et cetera?
So I'm a South Alabama country boy, and my grandfather was a farmer, and the local crop dusters runway faced their house about a mile away, and that bi-wing yellow ag cat would fly over at treetop level every day. And finally, Granddaddy took me over there, and I went flying with the crop duster, and we buzzed people swimming in fish ponds. We would fly beside people in tractors. We'd go nose to nose with cars going down the highway. I mean, it really lit my fire. And so that was in late elementary school, junior high school, that I was able to have 3 or 4 flights with him. And it was really motivating and kind of lit the fire. Then I went off to college, and I can't lie, Top Gun came out, and that was probably the deciding factor. And so I joined the Marine Corps, and I went to school, got my degree in mathematics. I was going to be a high school math teacher and a football coach. And I said, well, shoot, I'll go join the Marine Corps. And my contract was 4.5 years after my winging. So I said, we'll go do this for 4.5 years, and then we'll go be a high school football coach and a math teacher. And but every time it came time to make a decision, something good happened. And the next thing you know, 27 years later, we're out of the Marine Corps and moving back home, and coming to work for what is now Amentum. We were just bought, but our new company name is Amentum, and we have a little over 300 civilian instructor pilots, and we conduct the initial entry rotary wing flight school for the Army. So we get all the
robust operation.
It is. We put about 1,400 young warrant officers and young second lieutenants through our program every year, in support of Army aviation.
So a couple of questions. One, what do you recommend to our aspiring young aviation professionals in terms of maybe they haven't had the exposure that you guys have had in your youth, in terms of some of you've had in terms of being around aviation or having a chance to go up in a plane, but they love aviation. They know they have an interest in it. What do you say to them?
It's going to be cliche-ish, but to follow your dreams. And I hate to say something that is so common, but it is in reality the absolute truth. And go to college and get your degree and join the Marine Corps. You can join the Navy or the Air Force if you want to, but join the Marine Corps.
And join the Navy. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And or if college is not for everybody, and a lot of young warrant officers come right out of high school, and they're successful in joining the young warrant officer program, and they're able to go to flight school. And So they're able to start their career off and be Army aviators for 30 years.
Yeah.
And you know, if you choose not to do that, then follow your dreams to a civilian flight school. Absolutely.
Chris, I saw you nodding, very much in agreement with that.
I think Colonel Faircloth, he's got a really good just point there. It's that there's something inside of folks, and it talks to who they are as a person, and it's your dream or whatever. And I mean, you know, whether it's military flying or civilian flying, I mean, it's worth working that extra shift at Red Lobster to get that ramp fee so you can rent an airplane. I mean, if the Marine Corps had a Cessna that said Marines on it, I'd fly it. I mean, it's something about the middle of who you are and speaks to your soul. So if you're mildly interested at all, just start talking to people and figuring it out. Read some books about it. You know, just the romance of aviation.
So one of the things that I find pretty fascinating about what you guys all do is the precision that you do it with. So I'm going to go to you, Mike, and to you, Deke, and talk about the other side of the fixed wing side of it in terms of Air Force One. But you guys coordinate very closely with Marine One when applicable and that type of thing. And overall, the operations, you know, we've had Tamara Cullum on before, who was Air Force One flight attendant, and it's just amazing the coordination and the precision that you guys do things. I'll let either one of you speak to that.
Go ahead, Deke.
He's talking about Air Force One. That's your game, Mike.
All right, I'll go. You know, for us, as Colonel Faircloth said, you got to be perfect. You got to have the wheel on the spot at the right time. At the 89th Airlift Wing, we have this saying, perfection is the standard. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be perfect, but as a team, you need to act and operate in a perfect manner. And that really is the bedrock of all of this VIP flying. You're taking somebody and moving them safely, comfortably, and reliably in the air to a certain spot and time and place to do something extremely important. You know, even before the tip of the spear, you're doing policy for a lot of us. And I think it involves a lot on the training. We practice, Marine One and Air Force One practice together all the time. And then they also practice a lot apart. I don't know how many landings they've done on the White House lawn, but we've done a ton of landings at all the airports in and around the East Coast, practicing every week when we're not flying. And even when we're not flying, we're studying, reading, doing simulators. So there's a lot of, you have to be very passionate, first of all, to be a pilot and maintain your skills as a pilot, but you have to be passionate to ride the waves of the very difficult parts and the challenges and the failures and the obstacles that are in your way. So for me, you know, you had asked about our path a little bit. I had some obstacles growing up. I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. I was watching a football game with my dad, and I saw a cool helmet that I'd never seen before. Growing up in Georgia, you know, you had the G on the side, or Georgia Tech or Alabama. There was a lightning bolt, a blue lightning bolt on the side of the helmet. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So that was my entry into aviation and the passion that began by just being inquisitive about a football helmet. Although my mom and my dad both worked for American Airlines, my dad was a baggage guy and my mom was a stewardess. So I had it sort of in my blood to begin with, but all the way through, didn't get into the Air Force Academy and went to Marion Military Institute. I thought I had a perfect record and I thought I did a great job, but that's one thing you learn pretty quickly. And I think these four guys can guarantee that there's always somebody better than you. You know, and one of the things that my dad always taught me was don't let anybody outwork you, be a servant to other people, and give 100% effort in everything you do. And I think those three things, being a servant, being a leader, and giving 100% is what sets apart people who are interested in being perfect at what they do, especially in aviation.
Yeah, one of the common denominators with all of you guys and with even previous guests is perseverance. It's very clear that no one has a direct path, and you beat me to it. I was going to say, was there any chance that when you were in high school, you said, oh, I want to be an Air Force One pilot one day?
No.
Wasn't on the radar.
Nope.
And speaking of persevering and also seeing things from what I call flight level 450, Deke, you've had a unique responsibility when you were in the Air Force with executive VIP transport and how you dealt with that both from the Pentagon and at Joint Base Andrews. How about telling us a little bit about that and your perspective tying in what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I like what Mike said. Perfection was what we all strove for, but it wasn't individual perfection, it was as a team. And if you strove for individual perfection, oftentimes you failed because, Chris just nailed it, right? Being able to play in the sandbox and share your toys, that's the whole thing. And so I think the biggest takeaway from my Air Force career was just playing well with others. And that's just something you work on your whole life. And
Yeah.
so, that perfection that Mike talked about comes in integrating with others. But, operationally, exactamundo. I mean, we had to coordinate with everyone. We didn't fly the president, but we flew everyone down from there. And, whether it was the State Department or, what have you, it was a really tough environment. And you got to understand that as a pilot, we strive for landings and takeoffs and smooth air. You can do all of that, grease the landing, and your passenger can get off the airplane and say the coffee was cold, right? That wasn't perfection for them. And so, serving the passenger, finding out what they wanted and needed was really what I've carried through. And that's really how you reach perfection.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because one of the when I was with the National Business Aviation Association and dealt with the corporate flight departments, one of the Fortune 500 companies that flies a Gulfstream 600 or 650 would do it around the world flawlessly, safely, but they lost the internet or the connectivity for 20 minutes during part of that flight.
That's a no-go item.
And the passengers get off the plane and were like, yeah, what was going on with the internet, with our signal? And the pilot's thinking, really? I just took you around the world. We did 8 stops or whatever it was, and you want to know why we lost 20 minutes of connectivity. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Deke, tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into it, and also a little bit more specifically about your job in the Air Force. What exactly did you do? But first of all, how'd you get there?
So, all these guys, and it's great to hear the stories, right? I just didn't have aviation around me. I love Ken's story about facing down the business end of a runway a mile from his house. I just didn't have that. I had 2 brothers who went to the Navy and had no interest in aviation. I was 6 years old and I saw Neil and Buzz Armstrong bouncing around in white hard suits on the moon. And I said, you know what? I want to do that. And my sister told me, listen, find out how they got there. So I found out the first original astronauts, the first 7 were military pilots and 6 of the 7 were engineers. I said, all right, that's what I'll do. So went through school, and that's, I had my head down and got an engineering degree. First road stop I hit many, people telling me I'd never be able to do it. I didn't have too many mentors around me. As soon as I got into ROTC, my vision was substandard. It wasn't 20/20. And in the late 70s, early 80s, if you didn't have perfect vision, you weren't going anywhere. So I entered the Air Force as a acquisition program manager. Did that for a few years and finally convinced someone to take a chance on me. And that's one of the things that I also learned in my career. I got what was called an administrative exception to policy, right? Which basically meant that you don't meet standards to enter pilot training, but once you're there, your vision is good enough to stay. And so the work I'd done outside of aviation, someone decided, this kid is a hard worker. And my mom always told me, if you can't do it, you just make sure no one is more tired at the end of the day than you. And that stuck. Someone said, hey, Deke, come with me. I'll talk to someone. So 2-star talked to the 4-star. I got an administrative exception policy. I went to pilot training. First goal was met, not by any talent of my own, but by people around me who saw something in this kid. I don't know what they saw, but so I started flying 141s. That was just a great experience. Got to fly all around the world, learned a lot about teamwork, 7 to 14 people on the aircraft. And that was just a great experience. Did some fast mover time in the T-38, teaching fighter pilots in their initial training phase there. Did some T1 flying, teaching heavy pilots. Went to the Pentagon from there, learned to fly helicopters, civilian. So that, Ken, that's why I was asking you and Chris about those landings, because that's tough. Met my best friend, which is why I'm wearing this this shuttle pin. He died in the Space Shuttle Columbia, and I just wear this pin on my lapel wherever I go. But he and I both wanted to be astronauts, didn't tell each other what we wanted to do. And he got in. I got a master's degree in aerospace engineering. I applied. Then I was accepted by the astronaut board, but then the docs said, yeah, your vision though. So I had to go back and go fly for
back to square one again, huh?
Back to, well, flying for the VIP airlift at the Air Force is not too bad of a fallback, but you bet I was disappointed. So, the mixture of things I got to do, starting non-flying, helped me when I was a flyer to move through the ranks and understand what it takes to get the business end of the stick, into the fray. And so I actually enjoyed doing some desk jobs, and just got to learn a lot more about building things and designing, systems. And then I retired in 07, and basically run a VP operation out of Westchester, doing the same thing, getting customers what they want, helping them buy aircraft, teaching others to fly jet aircraft, and managing that whole effort. So
yeah, before that you were at General Electric, GE, and that was quite the operation that you were running there.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it was
General Electric, sure.
It's a pretty robust operation.
Jets and helicopters.
Yeah, and I was 0 knots in 1G. I didn't do much flying there. I just ran the operation as the director, and so I got to fly, and I say I got to play. So we had S-76s and AW-139s, so I got to fly those. And then we had the Global 6000s, Mike, and we had 3 of those and Challenger 605. So that was a really robust operation. We had, when I got there, 10 to 12,000 hours a year, both on our fleet and through charter and net jets and all that. So
wasn't that right out of the Air Force, right after you retired?
It's exactly. It's what pulled me out of the Air Force to go.
So tell us the difference between what you were doing in the Air Force and now all of a sudden you're civilian and you're running a civilian corporate flight department, and a very robust one at that.
The difference was about that much. I mean, customers want to get, as Mike said, and everyone said, they want to get where they want to go on time, and failure is really not an option. And so precision. You have a civilian organization that's been in operation since 1945, coincidentally, around about when the Air Force started. GE has been operating that long, and they knew how to do it. They knew how to do their job. And so, the only things that needed to be added were efficiency. And, at the time I got to the department, there was, trying to get blood from a rock, as all corporate departments do. But precision and getting the customer what they want. I think I walked out of one job and into another doing the exact same thing.
Gotcha. So I'm going to put this out to the 4 of you, and you as an example. So you're a student, you're a senior at Embry-Riddle or UND or whatever, and you've been going through your flight training. You've pretty much finished all your requirements. You're about to graduate, and in the middle of all of it, COVID-19 hits, kind of shuts things down, and now you're regrouping. Now I can tell you, we've had young people on the show or are called into the show, and I cannot believe I have a phone ringing. Called into a show, called into the show, and said that they were, you know, either going to go continue to do their graduate degree, or they were actually rethinking, should they still be a professional pilot or should they do something else? With all the experience that the four of you have had, what kind of conversation would you have with these students that are going through this? Wide open to anybody.
You know, Ken said it best. You know, it sounds hokey. Don't give up your dream. I ran into so many hurdles, and just don't quit. So, you know, the things you do off the airplane and outside of the airplane bring as much attention to you as you know, the great job you can do inside of an airframe. So I would just say, don't quit. If you want to get that degree, go ahead and distinguish yourself. Be that next level that people are looking for. And if it brings attention to you and you just want to fly, then go for it.
Chris?
Also, you need to
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's right. I think, you know, from my perspective, having not gotten into the Air Force Academy, and then, you know, they had the drawdown in 92, 93, where only 225 of my academy class was getting pilot training. And then when you're in pilot training, it's dog eat dog, and there's worries and rumors. And I think putting one foot in front of the other, but also, as they both said, also, you have basically four areas of your life. You have your faith, family, and your friends. You have your physical fitness. You have your vocation, either academics if you're in school, or you have a job or a pursuit like you're trying to fly. And then you have a service commitment to those people around you, whether it's in your community or maybe your family, you know, maybe an elderly family member. So those four areas, you're going to have goals, and you have to set goals in every one of those areas. And, you know, don't give up on your dreams, but you need to have a plan, not only just to be a pilot, but once you are a pilot, you're going to have a family, or you're still going to be dealing with everything else around you. So just have a plan and set your goals. You know, you can use the smart planning for goal setting. If you can look that up on the internet, if anybody has a question, depending on how old you are. I think that's my biggest advice is, you know, just have a plan, and it's almost, you know, success is like math. I mean, you're going to be successful if you keep trying. You know, how many times did Edison try and create the light bulb, or how many times did we try and get an airplane in space all the way up, you know, 1904? So just don't give up.
Chris, Ken, same question.
I would agree with that. Just in the simple perspective, if you just put your nose into something and you work hard at it, people around you are going to notice that. So you become this standout, as Mike was saying. You become one that stands out of the crowd, as it does all this extra work. He did all this extra flight time. There's a lot of people that are, you know, think that you know, they're entitled to stuff. Well, this is this and this negative and this negative, COVID this, COVID that. Oh, woe is me. But if you continue to keep pushing after what you want to do, you're going to stand out. And then one day, you know, Deke's got a thing, and he calls Mike, and Mike, hey, I need a guy for a thing. Well, hey, I got this young kid. He works hard, and then that your reputation precedes you. And that's what I've noticed on the civilian side of stuff. Because in the military, we get assigned folks, and reputations show up with them. But in the civilian world, I know people that get really amazing jobs just by word of mouth. You know, hey, I know that person. You're going to like them because they do this, this, and this, and they offer these extra things that are non-tangible or untangible, whatever. And that's what kind of sets people apart, is just that work ethic. That's my 2 cents on that.
Gotcha. Ken.
So I will tell you, I believe it's all about personal relationships with people, and then your professionalism. And, you know, you have to give a crap, and you have to do your very best. You have to work hard every day. But I will give you a perfect example of what I think success is. And I'll use 2 young soldiers that were flight students of mine, and they just so happened to be paired up together. One was a 33-year-old former enlisted Army soldier. who wanted to go to flight school. And guess what? He was 33 years old when he got here, and he was a young special forces guy. So he had a lot of experience, and he did great. He continued to achieve his dreams. His stick buddy, as we call him, his partner, was an 8 or 9 year Air Force staff sergeant who had been an EOD guy. And again, he said his dream had always been to fly. And he exited the Air Force and joined the Army in that warrant officer program. So, two very distinct differences and career paths, but success in the end, all the same.
Yeah. When you're looking at, Ken, when you're looking at applicants to join your flight instructor group there that teaches Army pilots, what do you look for in the people that apply? And does it matter if they're civilian or military, or are there other things that are more important that you look at?
To come work for the company, it does not matter whether you're a military or civilian. You have to have, if you're a civilian, you have to have your certified flight instructor or your certified instrument flight instructor. You have to have, I think it's 500 instructor hours. You have to have a minimum of 2,000 hours, I believe is the number. And then you have to have a certain amount of night time, and then a certain amount of instrument or weather time or simulated time. But all that time adds up together. So, and we have multiple civilian flight instructors within the company, but we're probably a pretty vast majority retired military guys.
Gotcha. Mike, how about you? What do you guys look at? Not so much for employment, but what's going on in your world in the private flying, charter, et cetera, that you work with?
Right. So I'm not really in the hiring ability of things, but it's the same thing as the military. Can you get along with the person for 3 or 4, 8 or 12 or 14 or 2 weeks? Can you get along with them? But I think a certain amount, if you're talking about instructing or leading, that you have to be teachable because you're teaching, and realize that it's not a cookie cutter approach to education and training. Everybody has their own way of learning. Everybody has their own, way to receive feedback. And let's be honest, with aviation, the worst thing you can do is have a bad landing, high flare, float, go long, go around. I mean, failure is inevitable in aviation, and you have to be able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and receive feedback in a suitable manner. If you can't receive feedback and your ego's too big, you're not going to go far in aviation. You're definitely not going to get a job working for these, other 4 guys here that are here. It's very difficult to secure a position now, especially in aviation, if you're not malleable in working with. It doesn't matter who. Pick any person. You've got to be able to understand that there's a family behind that person, or a background and education, and it's not the way you've done it. So looking at somebody through their own eyes and being able to reach them, especially igniting their passion, like Colonel Faircloth had earlier. Somebody ignited his passion in aviation, and he had to sustain that. He had to have a flame and a fuel source for that. So that's the biggest thing that I think I can point to is what I just said.
Well, one of the things that you guys all are talking about, it has been resonating throughout this entire program, is teamwork, the ability to get along with others, how you project yourself to others, et cetera, and so forth. And that seems to really stand out, probably more than just about anything else that you've actually talked about. And you're all on the same page with that. You're all saying it in somewhat different ways, but you're pretty much covering the same territory with that. With that being said, and the people that are watching the program trying to figure out what they want to do, one of the things that somebody like Brigadier General McGee always talks about, teamwork and everybody having different responsibilities, but the same goal. And I bring that up because I'm going to throw all of you for a little bit of a loop and just say, I want to hear your perspective on the other people on your teams that you have, so you're flying a plane or flying a helicopter, but you've got the mechanics, and you've got the avionics techs, and you've got the operations people, and you've got the communications people, et cetera. Can you guys tell a little bit about those? Because the other thing that I like to point out to our aspiring young aviation professionals is, yes, if you want to aspire to be a pilot, that's wonderful, but you also may have a skill set in an area you didn't even realize, or an opportunity in an area that you didn't realize existed.
You know, flying the 141, that was just so in your face. Like I said, we had 7 to 14 people on a crew, depending whether I was doing airdrop or you know, when we were flying for DV at Andrews, taking people to important places around the world. And they have more interaction with the flight attendants, for example, have more interaction with the customers. And it was no secret to me, they were the most valued people on the team. I mean, they wanted us to get there safe. Is that what I did as a pilot? But those guys, we'd also carry security personnel. And so the challenge, and I'm still working on that, right? And I'm an ordained minister, and I still work on just how do you talk to people? How do you pull the best out of those people? And the most important thing I come away with is they have to understand that they're a very important part of the team. If I have a team member who doesn't feel like they're important, then my team has failed. And so how do I get each of those people to do those things? The mechanics, you know, plane will come out of overhaul. I put them on the airplane for the flight, then the first flight out of an overhaul or something like that. Soliciting their input on whether the airplane was a go or no go, or what the problem was and how do we have to fix it, and all of those different things. If your team member doesn't feel like they're important, your team has failed.
Ken, with your, as an example, I mean, you guys have a robust flight instructing operation. Is that something you have to instill in the pilots, or is it just part of your program? How do you guys look at that and teach them the importance of teamwork and the importance of all the support personnel it takes to make a good team fly well?
Yeah, you know, as you know, all of aviation is pretty detailed, and regulations and rules and standard operating procedures and all those kind of things flow in the aviation world, or the you know, the results of failure are catastrophic. So you know, again, I'll say it's about professionalism and being dedicated to the task, and being able to work with others, because when things go wrong with the airplane, you know, you've all got to be able to function under a time of pressure, for lack of a better term. And you know, we don't fly with crew chiefs in the UH-72, the EC-145, but you know, so it's when I'm flying, it's me and 2 young warrant officers or a second lieutenant. So we don't have any crew members in the back, but there's certainly a teamwork there if something goes wrong in the cockpit, you know, with the airplane. But that said, on the ground before the flight or after the flight, there are contract mechanics on the flight line to help us, and you know, and we work well with those guys. There's a good communication and camaraderie, and we work together to figure out whether the airplane is ready to fly or not, or if we can, you know. So there are a lot of times you can go flying, you know, you don't need a windshield wiper on a clear blue sky day. So, you know, a lot of times you can go flying without things. Mm-hmm. And, but, you know, you work with those mechanics and those inspectors to make sure that the airplane is flyable.
Sure. Chris, when you were in the Marines, you had some leadership roles and that type of thing. What are some of the various positions that you worked with as a pilot and in other capacities that you also considered important in terms of the team factor?
Well, I think everything that you know, we did in the Marine Corps, the team is what it is, and I think if you don't treat people like Colonel Faircloth said before, you don't give a crap, they're not going to give it back to you. They'll do what they're told because, you know, there's rules and regs that says they have to, but that doesn't mean they have to give you your best. But I can remember as a young guy, my dad was in the Navy and he was in charge of some stuff, and we were walking up these stairs and there was a sailor. He's probably in trouble, I don't know. He's painting a handrail. And I remember my dad stopped, talked to him for a second, asked, "Hey, you're doing a good job," or whatever it was. but he just took a second to recognize this person as another human. Hey, you're doing a good job. Or it's just, for me, it's just, hey, what are you doing? I can remember we were doing some close air support stuff, and I actually got I got kicked off the range because I'd blown up their pretty target with a big bomb. So I went down to the gun line, and I sat there, and there was this Marine working the mortar system, and I just wanted to talk to another guy about the mortar. He's getting, this and that. Like, oh, sure, this and this and this. And I said, hey, man, I just want to talk to you man to man. Like, what are you doing with this weapon system? And I don't think any of us would be in the spots we were in if we weren't those kind of people. Like, if you just show you care about another person. I can remember, it's not my mission. I got a phone call, I was the duty wheelo, the advanced guy. There's a mission going on overseas, in some sandbox kind of place, and nobody on site knew where the nose gear was for a 747 based off the front of the aircraft, or where the nose gear was on a C-17. And I had to go find those diagrams so that those guys on the ground in that place could be successful. So they knew where the carpet was going to be and where the podium was going to be, and that's not my mission, but, those pilots landing those aircraft in the middle of the night probably need to know that, hey, my chalk spot's good. Somebody did the math on this, and it's just that, I do it for them. He's going to do it for me. I remember being a forward air controller, in Iraq, and all of a sudden I got two really good friends that we helped each other out through flight school. One's flying a Huey one night and one's flying an F-18 one night. And I knew that if I had a problem, they would respin their gas, double check their math. If I had a problem, they would be there for me. So that's just how we are as a culture. So the team is just how we're built, how we're wired.
Yeah. Awesome. Mike?
I think coming from being a pilot or wanting to be a pilot, first of all, you're proactive and you have a desire to lead. You're leading a machine in the air, and that sort of transcends itself into leading people. And one of the most important things, Air Force core value, is integrity. I think integrity is important. All four of us can agree to that. Is if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And then also being humble. So relating that to a team, Air Force One is made up of flight attendants, cops, maintainers. We have, civilian maintainers. We have Air Force maintainers. We've got engineers, navigators. And so everybody brings in their stovepipe understanding of leadership, and we all approach each other with an immense amount of integrity, and we're all extremely humble. And we realize that not only is the president our customer, but each one of us is a customer as well. And whether it's doing the paperwork after a trip that our administrative support staff does, whether it's pushing the next trip up, or finance, or medals in the case of some trips that we do. Sometimes we were blessed enough to get recognized by the Air Force. And so all of that wrapped up in a big bow is a team effort. And I think that's the buzzword of the day is teamwork. And I think just looking at it from my perspective, integrity and being humble is what sets VIP Airlift apart when it comes to perfection and performing perfection for our customers.
Well said. So, we're starting to wrap up the program, and one of the things I like to do in the wrap up is give everybody an opportunity to, I'll say, tell a story, but putting it more in terms of saying, share with us a life lesson. Chris has already shared about 3, maybe 4. So I'm going to come back to you, Chris, but I'll start with you, Mike. If you could share a life lesson with us, or a story of something that happened that stood out somewhere in your career that you think would be important for our aspiring young aviators to hear.
I think where everyone is right now, my story is right up their alley, especially with the declination of opportunity in the aviation world that currently exists. I thought I had everything set up. I did everything in high school. I got good test scores. I was on this team. I was a leader here. I was in Civil Air Patrol. I already had my pilot's license. I was the perfect candidate for the Air Force Academy, and I didn't get selected. And that hit me pretty hard. You're going to have obstacles. And I had to figure out a way to get to the Air Force Academy. That was my goal. And I wound up going to a prep school. There's lots of different ways to get to a service academy. There's 3 or 4 different ways to become an officer, and whether it's go through the enlisted rank, go to school and go to OCS, or whether you're a lawyer or a doctor and you do it that way, OTS. And I think just realize that life isn't over if you fail. I mean, being a pilot is a big deal to a lot of people, especially people who don't know much. Everybody goes on an airplane now, and everybody sometimes takes for granted, but all it takes is seeing somebody like Sully Sullenberger land an airplane in the Hudson River and safely take care of all of his passengers with no engines. I mean, that was absolutely incredible. So failure is a part of our business, and you got to understand that you're going to fail, and just don't give up. And that's my story is I can point to 4 or 5 times where things could have gone left or right. And, I had faith in my creator, and I knew that no matter what, I was going to be fine. And I just fought through the obstacle and used the people around me, helped me, not use them, but, use their support to get to where I wanted to go.
Ken, you have a life story or lesson that you learned, a life lesson or story you'd like to share with us?
I will tell you that I think I've always had dreams and worked hard, but not the smartest guy in the room ever. And but I did learn one thing, that we will always have some failures, like Mike was talking about, but never quit and be a survivor and keep on continuing. And again, another cliche, set your dreams really high, and you may not achieve that highest dream, but you'll achieve, better than you would have had you not dreamed at all. And I will tell you, that's exactly the case that it is for me. There are a lot of things I wanted to do, and I was not able to do them, but I feel like, through working hard and perseverance and never quitting, we were able to achieve, some pretty neat goals.
Okay. Well said. Chris, life lesson number 6, please.
Keep those hits above the belt, Vince. No, I think the life lesson is just, as far as this kind of aviation, since we're kind of talking about VIP aviation, is realizing as the pilot, it's not about you. It sank in. We shut down New York City. We did that whole thing. We took President Bush, and we landed on the Intrepid Museum and all these things. And then he decided to change the entire plan. And we sat there for 4 hours. And then we realized later that he was meeting with Gold Star mothers. And then it really sank in, like, hey, it doesn't matter what I did in the past. I could have been the best instructor pilot and this and that and the other. And we shut down this city, and I have stuff to do tonight. I got people I'm going to meet, but it's not about me. It's about who you're providing your service to, whatever part of aviation it is. So just always be selfless, and it'll reap its own rewards.
Thank you very much for that. Deke?
So Chris, you gave him a shot at number 6, and he took what I was going to say. It's not about you. The only reason I'm a pilot is because, and Mike brought this up, as a pilot, most of us are pretty type A. We get her done. And so when you start to understand that if you use that ability and that skill to get whatever done needs to be done, in my case, I was noticed because I was doing a lot of community work, and it was about helping people in need, helping people. We were building houses for people who needed houses. We were doing a ton of community work, and someone who knew that I had a goal. And honestly, at this point, because of my vision, I had just kind of said, all right, God, you don't want me to be a pilot. I get it. I give up. I had a civilian license, but I thought, okay, the military just not going to be for me. Someone came to me because of other people who talked about me. And it was because they saw that I was just willing to give. And servant leadership is probably one of the most important things that I've ever picked up. And again, I'm still working on it. And if you realize it's not about you, you will get some of the things in life that you most desire. And so I just say keep that mentality strong, and just try to serve and help others.
Wow, thank you. You guys have really brought this home in terms of what's important, and some great insight and advice to give to the aspiring young aviation professionals out there that are looking at aviation as a career and the different things that it offers. Amazing backgrounds again with you guys, and amazing input. Really appreciate all of you making time to be on this program and sharing your thoughts with regard to opportunities that are out there. And wish you all a very happy holiday season.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, and may we all have a better 2021.
That's right. Thank you for the opportunity, Vince. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have all of you on, and appreciate you guys. So anyhow, take care. That's it for All Things Aviation. We have one more show next week, and we have a few surprises on that, so I'll leave it for the surprises. But looking forward to that being the last show of the year. And again, appreciate you guys. Everybody, thanks for watching, and have a great rest of the week and weekend. All right, take care, everybody.
Thanks, Vince.